Hello, friend. In today's video, we're going to talk about something very important: why English feels difficult, and more importantly, how you can make it simple. Not with complicated grammar, not with boring rules, but with a practical approach that you can start using from today itself. By the end of this video, you will clearly understand what you've been doing wrong and what you should actually do to start speaking English confidently. And if you're someone who wants to improve your English step by step with simple explanations and real practice, then make sure you subscribe to the channel, because here we focus on learning English in a practical way, not just theory, but real usage. Let me ask you something honestly. How many times have you felt that English is hard? Not because you don't understand it, but because when it's your turn to speak, your mind just goes blank. You know the words. You've studied grammar, you've watched videos, maybe even taken classes. But still, when you try to speak, you start translating in your head. You think about tenses, sentence structure, mistakes, and in that moment you lose your confidence. And then what happens? You either stay silent, or you say something very basic, and later you think, "Yar, I knew this. Why couldn't I say it?" If this sounds like you, then listen carefully. The problem is not your English. The problem is the way you were taught English. From school itself, we were told, first learn grammar, then learn tenses, then memorize rules, and only after that try to speak. But in real life, that method doesn't work. Because speaking English is not about remembering rules, it's about using simple patterns again and again. Think about it. When you speak Hindi, do you think about grammar rules? Do you remember tenses before speaking? No. You just speak. So why are you trying to speak English in a completely different way? In this video, I'm going to show you a simple approach which will change the way you look at English. And trust me, once you understand this, English will not feel confusing anymore. It will finally start making sense. Now let's talk about something very real. Most people don't actually struggle with understanding English. If I speak a simple sentence in English, you understand it. If you watch a movie, you catch a lot of words. If you read something, you get the basic meaning. So the problem is not understanding. The real problem starts when you have to speak. The moment someone asks you something in English, your brain suddenly slows down. You start thinking, okay, what should I say? Which tense should I use? Is this sentence correct or not? And in those few seconds, your confidence drops. You know what you want to say in Hindi very clearly, but converting that same thought into English feels like a struggle. For example, you want to say, "मैं आज काम पूरा करके ही रहूंगा." But instead of speaking directly, your mind starts working like a translator. Main, today, work, complete, will. And now you're stuck. You start forming the sentence piece by piece, and by the time you're ready, the moment is already gone. And this happens again and again, and slowly you start believing something. Maybe my English is weak. Maybe I'm not good at this. But that's not true. Let me tell you another pattern you might have noticed. When you are alone, you can actually form sentences better. You think, okay, I could have said this. I should have said that. But when the real situation comes, you can't say it at that moment. Why does that happen? Because your brain is overloaded. You're trying to do too many things at once, translate from Hindi to English, check grammar, choose correct words, avoid mistakes, and speak confidently, all at the same time. That's too much pressure for your brain in a live conversation, and because of that, you freeze. Now let's talk about grammar. From school time, we were told that grammar is everything. Tenses, rules, structures, present perfect, past continuous, all of that. You studied it, you memorized it, but when it's time to speak, Do you actually remember those rules? Number. Because speaking doesn't work like an exam. In an exam, you get time to think. In real life, you don't. And this creates another problem. Now think about this. When a child learns to speak Hindi, does anyone teach them grammar first? Do they learn tenses before speaking? No. They listen, they copy, they repeat, they make mistakes, and still keep speaking. That's how language is learned naturally. But in English, you are told to do the opposite. First learn everything, then speak. And that's where things went wrong. You were trained to think before speaking, instead of speaking to improve your thinking. And because of that, English started feeling difficult. But here's the truth you need to understand. Your problem is not lack of knowledge. Your problem is lack of the right system. You don't need more grammar. You don't need more vocabulary. You need a simpler way, a practical way, a way that actually works in real conversations. And once you understand that, everything will start changing. Now let's clear some of the biggest myths, because until you fix these, English will always feel difficult. The first myth is, I need perfect grammar to speak English. This is the biggest mistake. Tell me honestly. When you speak Hindi, do you think about grammar rules? Do you stop and ask yourself, is this present perfect or past continuous? No, you just speak. Then why are you putting this extra pressure on yourself in English? The truth is, you don't need perfect grammar to start speaking. In fact, if you wait for perfect grammar, you will never start. Second myth, I need to memorize all tenses before I can speak fluently. This is how most of us were taught. Learn tense, then learn rules, then do exercises, then speak. But real life doesn't work like that. When you are in a conversation, you don't get time to remember rules. Fluency doesn't come from memorizing tenses. It comes from using simple sentence patterns again and again. Third myth, I need a big vocabulary to speak good English. People think, if I don't know fancy words, I can't speak well. But look at fluent speakers. They don't use difficult words all the time. They use simple words, but with clarity and confidence. Even with basic vocabulary, you can express most of your daily thoughts. So vocabulary is not your main problem. And here's the biggest truth. English is not a subject, it's a skill. And skills are not learned by reading rules. They are learned by doing. You don't learn swimming by reading a book. You don't learn cycling by watching videos. You learn by practicing. English works exactly the same way. So if your focus is only on grammar, rules, and theory, you will keep understanding English, but you will never feel comfortable speaking it. Now it's time to change the approach. Stop chasing perfection. Start focusing on communication. Stop memorizing everything. Start using simple patterns. Because once you shift your mindset like this, learning English becomes much easier and much more natural. Now the question is, if grammar and memorization are not the answer, then what is? How do you actually start speaking English? The answer is simple. You don't need a complicated system. You need a clear and practical approach. And for that, just follow these 3 steps. Step 1. Stop translating. Start thinking in English. Right now, whenever you want to speak, you first think in Hindi and then convert it into English. That's where the delay happens. So instead of forming big sentences, start with small thoughts directly in English. For example, I am tired. I need water. I will do this later. Simple sentences. At first, it will feel unnatural, but slowly your brain will adapt. The goal is not perfection. The goal is speed and clarity. Step 2. Use fixed sentence patterns. Instead of thinking word by word, start using ready-made patterns. These are like shortcuts for your brain. For example, I want to, I am going to, I have to, I think, I feel. Now you don't need to create sentences from scratch. You just take a pattern and complete it. I want to learn English. I have to finish my work. I'm going to call him. See how easy that becomes? With just a few patterns, you can speak hundreds of sentences. Step 3. Speak daily, even if it's imperfect. This is the most important step. You don't need a partner. You don't need a perfect environment. Just start speaking. Talk to yourself. Describe your day. Say your thoughts out loud. Even if your sentences are broken, it's okay, because fluency comes from practice, not from thinking. If you wait to become perfect before speaking, you will never start. But if you start speaking daily, your English will improve automatically. So this is your system. Don't translate. Use patterns. Speak every day. Simple. And trust me. If you follow this consistently, you will start seeing a change very quickly. Because now you're not just learning English, you're actually using it. So today you saw one important thing. English is not hard. The approach we were following was making it hard. When you stop translating, when you start using simple patterns, and when you practice speaking every day, things start changing. Slowly, your hesitation reduces, your confidence improves, and English starts feeling natural. Now, don't expect magic in one day, but if you follow this method consistently, even for the next 15 to 20 days, you will clearly see the difference. And the most important thing, don't be afraid of making mistakes. Mistakes are not a problem. Not speaking is. So from today, start small, speak daily, use simple sentences, and keep improving. And if you found this video helpful, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because I'll be sharing more such videos where you can actually practice and improve your English step by step. Also, if you want, comment below and tell me your biggest problem in English. I'll try to cover that in the next video. Keep practicing, keep improving, and I'll see you in the next video.